Hi, Mark here. I hope I find you well. I'm often asked to explain the differences between a full frame and a cropped sensor camera. So here we go. We're going to have a stab at trying to explain on YouTube what the difference is between these sensors, these terminologies. A full frame sensor is a legacy term from the film days, 35mm negative. And that's the distance from the bottom left to the top right corner of the sensor, 35mm. So a seasoned photographer would see an image and they knew how they were going to photograph it, irrespective of what camera they were using, what brand, whether it was Nikon, Canon, Sony, Pentax, Fuji, Olympus, because they used the same size film. It was 35mm and they knew, oh, I'm going to shoot that on my OM10, my FM2, my AE1 film camera, and I'm going to shoot it with a 24mm lens, and I'm going to have a depth of field of f4, and every camera would take the image the same. We would then do our developing in the darkroom, and that's where again we added creativity to it. So it's about a constant. Now digital came along and we wanted to preserve that legacy point of view. We've all known that when we look at this view, it gives us this point of view with this lens. So a full frame sensor camera is the same size sensor as a 35mm negative. Now a lot of cameras are made to a particular price point. That's functionality, size, number of buttons and materials that are used to manufacture these cameras. So the crop sensor is a physically smaller sensor. They're normally lighter and they're normally less megapixels. And the functionality sometimes is less than a more expensive camera, full frame or crop sensor, more expensive version. So why is that different? Well, because of the size of the sensor, the way the glass works within a lens, the field of view changes. So at 24mm, we have a wide view. But if I put a 24mm lens on a crop sensor, it actually gives you a magnifying effect. So it's like zooming in. And depending on the brand will depend on what they call the crop factor. And how far does that zoom in? So I'll give you Nikon for example, because I'm a Nikon photographer. 24mm on a full frame is 24mm, about 110 degrees I believe. With a 24mm lens on a crop sensor, there's a magnification of 1.5. So that gives me a tighter field of view. So rather than seeing all of that, I only see that. It's 26mm. And depending on the physical size of your sensor, will depend on the crop factor. So Nikon is a 1.5, Canon is a 1.6, so the crop is a bit tighter for a Canon user. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's no difference in the image quality and so on. It's just the seasoned photographer is trained to pick up a 24mm just by muscle memory and repeating 24mm is going to give me this. When they pick up and respond to events, perhaps street photography in front of them, they've got a different field of view to deal with a crop sensor. So you'll find a lot of seasoned photographers, from muscle memory, not having to retrain, stick with full frame, and full frame is the same across every brand. So that's the field of view. There's also another reason. To get the same number of photo cells, that's the technical piece on the sensor that records each pixel of light, each red, green and blue, frequency of light on the sensor, the actual photocell, to get the same number of pixels so you can have the same size print in a cropped sensor. They're crushed closer together. So if you can imagine, if you've got a physically something bigger, you can spread out the technology, the photocells, in that space for the same number. So a 24 megapixel full frame sensor, the photocells will be slightly wider apart than on a 24 megapixel crop sensor. Now, why would you do that? Two reasons mainly. Firstly is quality of the image, and secondly is low light capability. So this is general speaking here. There will be exceptions to the rule. Totally put my hands up to that. And technology does get better, so an older sensor and a newer sensor will have better quality of low light recording and so on. So we're talking generics here. So a full frame sensor will be a better quality sensor and generically have better low light capability. Compared to the same data manufacturing a crop sensor, the photocells are crushed closer together, so not normally as good quality, and the low light performance is not as good. However, if I took a full frame sensor for 10 years ago and compared it to a new crop sensor, that crop sensor will be better quality and better low light uses than that full frame sensor 10 or so years ago. Which is why we trade in and trade up and buy the newer models. The sensors, the technologies is better as we go year on year. So, why full frame? Why crop? Basically, quality, low light use, and the same point of view. It's got nothing to do with the photograph. It's got nothing to do with the story. And a good photographer that knows how to use their equipment can take a good photograph, quality-wise, telling the story with any device. Hope that helped. Down below is a comment box, so if you've got any comments, you'd like to comment on what I've said, what I think, correct me if I'm wrong. Tell me what you think. Leave a comment. Subscribe, give me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this content, or if you'd like to come to my workshop, across the bottom of the screen is the website address to check out my workshops. Hope you have a great day. Keep taking photos. Bye for now.